Hey, what's up, Chris and Jeff? Welcome to the podcast.
What's going on, fellas? It's a pleasure to be on the show. Looking
Oh, I'm
forward
on.
to this talk.
I'm honored to be here, guys. I think you're doing a good show here, Jay. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Glad you guys could join us for a different style of show, or kind of like the second in a series that I'm doing with called Be the Change for the Jay Stevens podcast, primarily sports, both what's going on and how race is right in front of us. This series is going to be a different tone. So you may come here for sports, but there will be times we're going to be talking about things to change the norm, to change what's going on in our lives with race and the race issues that have been in our country since before Black people even came to the country. They were here and they were an issue. Chris, let's start with you real quick. What were your thoughts when you heard about George Floyd's death? And then also, what were your thoughts afterwards watching all the protests around the world?
Man, the video of George Floyd's death it's one of the toughest videos I've ever had to see in my life. It's a guy begging for his life, and yet nothing happened. All the cops just stood there and watched, and then you had the one cop obviously, have his knee to his neck for over 8 minutes. And it's like I said, man, it's very tough to see that video and just for no action to be immediately taken. Like in any other case, and if it's a regular citizen doing that to any other regular citizen, immediate, you get arrested, you get charged, and you go to jail immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But since it was a guy, it was a cop who has a badge, it seems like they have a different set of rules, as we've seen in past, with a whole lot of situations. Eric Garner, where I'm from in Staten Island,
Mm-hmm.
that happened not too far, maybe 15 minutes away from me, and to see something like that, where nothing happened, the cop didn't get charged, and over a couple of loosey cigarettes, so it's just crazy to what's transcribed. And thank God that the cop was finally charged and the other guys were finally, charged as well. But, why we're having this conversation is because it took too long. And it shouldn't have taken that long. It was, the video's there. It's right there. We have the video to show that he did it,
Yeah.
like it's there. Like there's nothing more, it's right there. It's proof. There's nothing more you need. Obviously in past situations, you might see a small clip, or you might not even see a clip. You might just be hearsay, like the Mike Brown situation. We see something like that where there is no video of what actually happened. So it's just a cop versus, spectators.
Mm-hmm.
So you really can't tell. So it's just so sad to see what's happened. And then, just the way how the after effect has, really, everything's happened with after. And when, I love the protesting, but it seems like people are trying to put the looters and the rioters along with the protesters.
Right.
And it's not the case.
Right.
Whoever the looters and the rioters are, the people that are just taking advantage of the situation. Those aren't the people that are, those aren't the people protesting for what's going on with what happened with George Floyd. So, I see a lot of people just like, just reacting to that and have no reaction towards what actually happened and why we're seeing all this.
Right.
Why we're seeing all this is because of this situation, and why we see a lot of these situations is because we got cops who are just taking advantage and being scared. And to me, I've always looked at that as, if you want to be a cop, you can't be scared. You got to have thick skin.
Right. Yeah.
And you can't be scared of someone simply because of a color of your skin. I don't know. I've always found that crazy that you could see someone's skin color and just be like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to go walk across the street. Or, just people. I just find that so insane. Growing up how I grew up, I never understood that. But as I got older, you see it more and you're like, that's just wrong. And then a lot of people are really showing themselves, especially on social media, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm Jeff. I'm sure you've seen it, where you're you're just like, what? What are you talking about? And then they somehow flip it to Kaepernick, and it becomes a whole different issue. And it's just crazy what, how people really show themselves. And I think that's the biggest thing, is we're seeing a lot of ignorant people. a lot of ignorance. And I mean, my timeline alone is just pure anger. I must have gotten to so many Facebook beefs because I'm just like, what are you talking? And people who I've never ever interacted with on Facebook suddenly come on. I posted something like I reposted something on Facebook when someone comments like you've never had a conversation with on Facebook, you just happen to be friends with them for whatever reason, and they come out of nowhere and they argue about this, like, oh, but what about the writers and looters? I was like, that's not what I'm talking about. And I had, and I had posted maybe a week ago about if you have more issue with the rioters and the looters more than the actual crime that was committed by the cop, then I have an issue with that. And then people, of course, flip the words and like, oh, so you're saying rioting and looting is okay? I was like, no. If you actually read, I didn't say that. I said if you have more of an issue with that, if all your comments and posting is about that and all you're talking about is that, but not about what happened with George Floyd, then I have an issue with that. I'm not saying it's okay to riot or loot because, like we said, that's terrible. You shouldn't do that. And those are the people that unfortunately are getting combined with the protesting. People who are doing peaceful protests, you see what Steven Jackson does and all these athletes and stuff. What they're doing is tremendous. But obviously, the media is going to just point that to rioting and looting, and then of course, there's certain people are just going to look at that and be like, see, look what's happening. This is how you commemorate George Floyd, and it's like, no, that's not who's trying to make George Floyd, what happened to him, try to make it in light. Those are just taking advantage, like I said before. So it's just. This whole thing has gotten crazy. And then, of course, the president doesn't make it better. Drew Brees incident doesn't make it better. And then, of course, president comments on Drew Brees. And Drew Brees is like, oh, my God, why did I even speak? And he shouldn't have spoke because, first of all, it had nothing to do with Kaepernick. And, of course, he brought it up, in a situation. And he put his foot in his mouth. And now he has to eat it. Now he's got to deal with all that crap because, not to backtrack, but the whole Kaepernick stuff is crazy, too, because it wasn't about disrespecting veterans. It was never about that. He said it was never about that. And then he went to a Green Beret, asked him, how should I handle it? And the Green Beret said, kneel during the flag, kneel during the national anthem. He does it. It's a huge issue. Meanwhile, obviously you guys have been to games, national anthems, we've seen guys scream and yell like lunatics, seeing guys go into the bathroom, people ordering food, babies crying, all these other things that are truly just people wearing American shirts and all this, which you technically you're not supposed to be wearing stuff that
right.
But yet you have a man who's doing peacefully a protest about police brutality, just kneeling peacefully. He's not kneeling on a flag, he's not spitting on a flag, he's not wiping his ass like Shawn Michaels did with the Canadian flag in the early 90s. He's not doing any of that. No. He's being peaceful, and I think people are just getting lost in the whole what Black Lives Matter means. And I think it's sad how people are just twisting it up, but we just gotta we gotta stay together. We gotta stick together because especially with the media is trying to ignite something, and they want everyone to hate each other, and it's like, okay, no, not about that, because you see in the protest a lot of white people. You see a lot of young, and I was just watching a podcast with it's Ryan Rucco and CC Sabathia, and they had Prince Fielder, and they had Chris Young, Edwin Jackson, and I forgot a couple other guys. And they were talking about, they went to the protest and they're seeing a lot of young white people who have high school kids who probably don't really understand it, what's really going on, and they're marching along, and they're fighting for their brothers, and that's what we got to do, because I don't think people really understand it, and that's the problem. People don't understand because they don't. And Jeff, I don't want to put you in there because you're white.
No, man.
There's a lot of white people that just don't get, because they haven't been in that issue and they just don't understand it.
Couldn't agree more.
And since it doesn't affect them, they don't understand why it's an issue. So they get blinded by it. And so it's important for white people who understand it to tell the people who don't, be like, guys, we're never going to experience it, but we need to understand why they're mad, why they're upset. So that's something that's very important. Where it just needs to be they got to teach. We got to teach. You got to teach, and make sure they understand. Understand what they're going on.
I'm glad you brought that up, Chris, because I've been struggling with that all week. Because number one rule, and in full disclosure, as a as just a white dude. You know what I mean? Like, you guys know me, but like parents wise, like you talked about Drew Brees a little bit. Like, now's not the time. Like now's our time to support. You know what I mean? And I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm like, how much do I support without all of a sudden it becoming about me, or like, what can I say? And then sometimes you just don't say anything. You know what I mean? The wounds are raw. You know what I mean? Go march with your brothers and sisters, and people of the world, and do your thing. But now, now's not the time necessarily for us to speak about things in a world that we don't live in, no matter how we feel about it. Like this tears me up, like in a different way, obviously, like the rest of the world. But now's not my time to, like Chris said, jump on social media and try to force it, let down people's throat and stuff, because like it's fresh and it's raw, and I have to understand as someone that, and I live in a lily white community in the middle of Ohio. I don't necessarily blend in, but I say this a lot, like, see, I can take a day off. You know what I mean? Like, I feel this, like I share the, most of the beliefs, what I call the right side of it. You know what I mean? Like, I share the support and all that. But if I decide tomorrow to stay out of it, I can. Like, when I walk into a store, nobody can look at me and see and guess how I feel about a situation, or guess who I'm voting for, or guess if I'm like, I can, like I told you guys, I feel like I'm undercover sometimes. Like, I can just, but as to where like a minority can't do that. You know what I mean? They can never, there's always something assumed about them. Nobody has any idea what they're thinking, but they assume things, as to where, with me, like if I decide, like I can be as radical as I want. Like I step on a lot of toes, like in this world, the small world that I live in, my community. But if I decide tomorrow to not, I can, and nobody will know. Like, there's a dude drove by driving a truck, looks just like us, and they won't think a thing about it. So it is unique for me to know exactly how much I can say or how much support, because I want to reach out to all my minority friends, and and rest and be like, I don't know, you feel like defending it, but then you're like, nobody wants to hear that. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't had to deal with these problems my entire life, even though they bother me. So like, I don't want to be the guy that says that, and then I can see them being like, you know what, like, we don't need to hear from you right now. You know what I mean? So it does. It is awkward knowing how much support I can give without sounding like I'm you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just it's a bad situation, man.
Jeff, we're gonna stick with you real quick.
Okay.
And I mentioned something before we got on air. White privilege. I've had some of my, Chris, I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've had some of my white friends ask me, what is white privilege? And even to the extent of saying, is there such a thing as white privilege? Now, me as a black man, I assume a lot of white people understand that. Now, at this time, it's not just opening your eyes and some of the other white people's eyes. It's opening my eyes, and maybe Chris is yours as well. It's seeing like, white people don't understand that we're not on the same playing field. I'm going to explain the situation that happened to me, and then Jeff, turn it over to you to see the white privilege thing.
Yeah,
so Friday at work, and here in Indianapolis, we had a curfew, 8 p.m. Friday, 8 p.m. Saturday, due to things that happened last weekend. And Friday at work, I've been trying to go to the gym. Once the gym reopened, I try to go at night around 8:30. So there's not a lot of people there. I go to Anytime Fitness 24/7. So, and they have guidelines like we can't have guests come in. We can't. They want us to carry around our own spray bottle to wipe down the equipment before and after each use, and no more than 15 people in the gym at one time. So they have their rules, and I try to abide by them. So I have altered my life to abide by those rules. So I was talking to a guy at work on Friday, and I said, hey, man, it's a white guy. And I told him, man, I don't like this curfew. I want to go to the gym at 8:30. And he proceeded to tell me, well, you could still go to the gym at 8:30, leave after curfew, go to the gym, work out, and then go home. And he's like, I said, well, I'll get pulled over. Like, I can't do that. He's like, no. All you got to do is just tell the cop, be like, hey, so I'm coming home from work. And then if he says, well, why are you all sweaty? Just says, I'm in my routine. This is what I normally do. Get off work, go to the gym, and then come home. And in my mind, I'm thinking, one, that's a lie, because I get off work at 6 o'clock. I don't get off at 8 o'clock. So one, it's a lie. And then two, bro, you don't understand it. I'm going to get arrested, go to jail. And they said for us, the penalty is up to 180 days in jail, up to a $10,000 fine. Bro, I'm not about that life. I don't know about y'all. I don't know if y'all got bread like that. If y'all could go ahead and be in jail that long, I can look at y'all faces. We are not about that life. Nope. But he literally did not understand that I don't have the same abilities because of my color that he has. Jeff, white privilege, kind of go wherever you want with this stuff, man. But I'm opening my eyes to this, and I'm sure you have a better ability to explain it than even I can.
Yeah, I mean it's as real as can be, man. And this is what I say, but I step on a lot of toes. People that either have it or use it and don't want to accept that they use it or whatever they're very defensive. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying, like, and see, here's the thing. I'm speaking from a mostly white community. Like I'm speaking, just so everybody, full disclosure, like, I live in rural Ohio, mostly white. So I don't know, like, I don't live in a city where, it's an integrated community. I'm sure everybody's totally different. This is specifically from a rural community. And they get very defensive. If they say something and I'm like, that was racist, even if it was something barely racist, I'll say it like, oh, that was racist. And then immediately, there's backlash. Yeah. And the white privilege thing is real. I say it all the time. Like in the job that I do, I work in a lot of public buildings, in and out of public buildings. I work in them a lot, different ones. And if I put, if I've just got my work shirt on and I walk into a school and just like knock on the door and say I'm here from so-and-so, they let me right in. Like they won't even blink. You know what I mean? If I don't know if it's a school, anywhere. Like I'm just saying, like, just because I blend in so much that, I'm non-threatening by their standards is what we're talking about.
Right.
Like I get full, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, they never even asked for identification. They didn't ask, like, I could have grabbed somebody's shirt from their house that had this logo on it and it never even blinked, man. Or if I go, anywhere, man. If I go into if I'm in a clothing store, like I don't get the looks that some of my friends and stuff get. That might be dressed a different way or look a different way, and that's part of the like I guess when I say white privilege, it's like I think you brought it. It's always the benefit of the doubt. Like full disclosure, I always get the benefit of the doubt because when I talked about it earlier. When they look at me, they have no idea what's in my head. You know what I mean? I know what they think I'm thinking, and I know who they think I'm behind, and I know, what I'm saying? So, but that gives me the benefit of the doubt. I never get like second questions, from whatever, like, I've never been hassled by the options. I look exactly like them. You know what I mean? I think it's as simple as that. Not that I'm not a law-abiding citizen, but it's still like, I don't have that concern. I go to, we go on vacation a lot. We might go to Vegas. I'm walking down the street at three in the morning, whatever. I might be drunk, whatever. It never even crosses my mind that I might wind up in jail that night. You know what I mean? So that, I guess, I don't know if that's the privilege that, everybody, there's a lot more privileges. I don't get to use, all of them, but there's a bunch of them out there, but that's just personal ones. That's a real thing. You know what I mean? I listened to a podcast the other day with Chris Powell. They did a show and they talked about some of these things, and I'm like, man, it never even crosses my mind when I'm driving after dark that if I get pulled over, on the way home, from Columbus or something like that stuff, I just don't think of it. And that's, but I know it exists. But so that's it's like the benefit of the doubt constantly.
Yeah. Chris, go ahead, man. White privilege.
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a situation where I lived in Staten Island, where I moved to. I used to live in Brooklyn, and obviously it's very diverse, and you don't even think about stuff like this. And then when I moved to Staten Island, I moved to a really, predominantly white, and I'm the only minority pretty much there. And it was so tough at first because, everyone's looking at you different, and it was I had a tough time adjusting to going from school where it's very mixed and there's all types of people until it's just white people and I'm getting called the N-word and I'm Hispanic and I'm
hold on, bro, at school.
Yeah, man. That's why I had a tough time when I first moved to Staten Island. It was tough. It was very tough, and I didn't want to go to school. I would stay with the dean. Because I was like, yo, I can't do this. This is too much. I'm not fitting at all. I just couldn't do it. And with time, my neighbor, the people I grew up with, they're all white, but they took me in and they made me feel good about, they made me feel good. They didn't treat me differently. They treat me like whatever. So that's why I always got respect to the people I grew up with, because they didn't never looked at me differently, when other people, did. And, but still living in where I lived, I had a lot of people call the cops because we would listen, my mom listened to Spanish music and they would call the cops because the music was loud, but it was Spanish music. And I always told myself, what if I was playing Frank Sinatra, which my stepfather, is Italian. He would play Frank Sinatra music loud. Never hear the cops coming. You don't hear but the Spanish music, they would come and they would come a lot. I remember I had a situation where I had a big party and everyone was having a good time. I brought the whole hood there. I brought all my white friends there, all my Spanish. I brought them all together. I felt like for one day I brought everyone together, and there was no issue. Because at first I was like, man, I'm bringing a lot of people from a lot of different areas, and I don't know. The white people were hanging out with the black people. The black people were grilling with the white people. Spanish people. Everyone was having a good time. Cops came, party got. But I felt like, all right, for one day, we all came together. But like I said, with the music and being Hispanic, and I have the cops there all the time. And like we had a party, a baby shower. Cops came.
What?
It's summertime. It's a summertime. It's playing music, and the cops came, and they're like, "What's going on?" It's like, it's a freaking baby shower.
Right.
But I'm like, it's because of the music. It's the type of music, and that's what always bothered me was,
Wow.
are you because I hear people all the time playing whatever music, Fly Me to the Moon, Frank Sinatra, whatever, and I don't even think about calling the cops. But I'm like, but you call the cops on me because of the type of music? Because like I said, I played when my stepfather was alive. He played his Frank Sinatra or whatever music he liked, and he loved jazz. He played his jazz. It was never an issue. But when I played Spanish music, it was an issue. So, and that to me was I just could never understood that, and that always bothered me. Living in a dominant. Yes, it may be peaceful to walk out and know like, okay, nothing's gonna happen. There's no crime here. But it's like, man, I don't relate to none of this. Just because I live, my stepfather moved us here and we lived, nice for a little bit. I still don't fit in. I never felt like I fitted. And that was always an issue. And I'll give you an incident too, is I had just bought a brand new Dodge Charger. I just graduated college, bought myself a fly Dodge Charger.
You was living there, man.
Oh man,
That's what I was thinking.
I'm graduating.
Man.
I'm on top of the world. I got 22-inch rims. I'm chilling. This is my dream.
Hold on, bro. You ain't said nothing about tinted windows. You gotta have the windows tinted.
Tinted windows.
Okay.
Tinted windows. Dude, I'll show you a picture after. I'll show you guys a picture of the car. I totaled it a year later, but that's another story. We're just, I got it. I hit up my two friends, and I'm like, we're going out. We're gonna get chill. We go out, and both of them are 6'5" black dudes, big black. Basketball players. But these are my homies. Go to hang out. So I go pick them up, and we're driving down a main road, and we stop at a light, and I see a cop on the other side, and I'm like, we're gonna get pulled over. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, we're gonna get pulled over. I'm telling you, we're gonna get pulled over. The way the cop was looking, I was like, it's gonna happen. And we're driving. Cop pauses. I'm like, just wait, man. Turns around. Whoop, whoop. Like I told you. And that day, I already got pulled over twice. So I'm like, today, that day just happened to be one of those days where just everything. So I thought it would just be nothing. I thought it'd just be about the tints. And the cop was like, license registration, blah, 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 the deal. And he's looking. I'm like, what's the issue? I already got a tint ticket. You have a ticket. I was like, I don't have it on you. I could call my house and give you the numbers and all that. He's like, get out of the car. So me and my friends are like, so I'm trying to be calm because my friends are, they can be a little hot-headish. Mm-hmm. So I knew I had to be the one that's not the hothead and just be cool because I'm like, this could be bad because you guys are big. They're big dudes, 6'4", 6'5", 220. These are big dudes. They played college basketball, and I'm just like, all right, I got to make sure I have to be calm. So I get out the car. They both get out the car. They told them to sit down. And I just talked to the cop as what I learned. I'm like, just be cool, calm, collective. Don't give because the minute you argue. That's when they think that you're going to be aggressive, and then everything can go wrong. And they checked my car, like, you got drugs on you? I was like, no. Because I was in an area where I live, the side I used to live in is all white, and then the other side is, Staten Island is very, very small. It's like 10 miles long. It's not big. So it's you can get to one side or the other in 20 minutes. But there's two, I did the hood side and the regular side and the white side. I was in the hood side it's not really hood, but that's how they see it out there. And so they're like, oh, you got drugs here? It's very, your car is looking very, very drug dealer-ish. I'm like, what? Are you serious? And it was two white cops, and they're little too. They were shorter than me, and I'm only 5'11", and they were just like, very drug dealerish car you got. and he's looking at the rims, and he's like, open the trunk. And I could have been like, nah, I'm not opening the trunk. But I just like, I don't got it. I have nothing on me. So I'm like, whatever, man. We ain't got nothing on us. Showed it and kept looking in the car and stuff. I'm like, you can look whatever. You're gonna feel stupid that there's nothing in there. You're gonna feel stupid.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, just let us do our job. All right, do our job. We were all three of us sitting on the curb, waiting. He looks up. He's like, get up. And I'm like, yeah, like the way he said it though, I was like, get up. I'm like, oh, okay. We get up. And he's like, all right, there's nothing in here. I was like, yeah, I told you that.
Yeah.
There's nothing in. And then he starts talking to me about, oh yeah, I used to have this car back. And I was like, man, I don't want to hear any of that. And I'm like, okay, go on, whatever. Okay. And I'm just like, and I'm like, we're doing all this I'm just like, and I'm looking at my guys, I'm like, just be cool. Because I see it in their eyes. They're getting mad. I was like, one couple minutes. I got this. Let me handle it. About hearing about his car. And he's talking to me about the car. Oh, and like I said, he used to have this car 10 years ago. I'm like, bro, I don't care. Like, can you just let us go?
Yeah, for real.
Like, just let us go, man. We got nothing on us. I don't need to hear about your story. I don't care. You can do whatever. I don't care if your car, whatever. How many, you got 18 of them. I don't care. Just let us go. We're not doing anything wrong. And talked to us for another 5 minutes, and then eventually he looked at all of us like, all right, just don't do nothing stupid tonight. And I'm like, whatever, bro. Got in the car and we just went our way. But it's just crazy that I knew that we're gonna get pulled over.
Right.
Because I had a nice car, and I have two big guys in the car with me. But it just that sticks with me so much, and that was maybe 9 years ago. But it sticks with me so much. And my buddy, from time to time, posts on Twitter about that. He'll show the picture of him. It always, how it pops. You get something that pop up on like your to date, things that happened like 2 years ago on this date.
Yeah.
And then he'll always retweet. He's like, man, this day was crazy, and it's scary, man. That could have been. It could have. I always think about it, that could have gone so much. Could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
And if I look different, maybe they just go away. But I like to think that no one would. Cops don't think that way, but it feels like certain cops are just they assume nice car. There's minorities in there.
It's sad, bro. Jeff, you next. But it's sad they think like that. It's sad they assume that just because you have a nice car, you're Hispanic or black, don't really matter. Just because you ain't white, you got something going on wrong in the car. It's horrible. No, Jeff, I know you got something to say.
Well, I was just thinking, and another part of that bothers me so much when I hear these stories, because once again, I have no concept of that. Like when I was young, and like worst case, you might be hassled by like a mall security guard. I'm not even kidding with that. Like it's just not something that's on our radar. But another thing that bothers me about that is that the responsibility is all on you, Chris, and your two friends to not escalate the situation.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you guys, like me, like I could probably shout a little bit more. Like even if I get hit or something, even go to jail, like it's probably not going to wind up, horrible. And the responsibility is constantly on, you guys, so to speak, to constantly like keep your cool. You know what I mean? Like don't speak up, like don't escalate it. But I mean it's been that way and that's just one situation. It's 200 years of this stuff of minorities, more than that in America, of constantly having like don't escalate the situation. Don't say too much. You know what I mean? You got to always turn the other cheek. You know what I mean? And that response, it shouldn't be like that. You should be able to say like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Like I'm paying your salary. Get out of my face. I'm doing nothing wrong, and I'm moving down the road. But you can't. I mean, we all know that. It's proven. Like we see it with video day after day. It seems like, and it's sad, man.
Chris, you made a comment earlier about the kids saying the N-word to you at school.
I remember it so vividly too, man. It's crazy. I know who said it to me. I still know who said it to me too.
Yeah.
It was 15, 16 years ago. I remember where I was wearing, because that memory, you have certain memories that just stick with you. And I was wearing basketball shorts. I was wearing knee-high socks. This is around like the Clippers era.
Quentin Richardson and D. Miles,
I was wearing a headband. I just went to the store to get, I don't even know, I think a drink or whatever. And I just hear these two white kids like, what are you doing here? N-word. I was like, whoa.
No shit, man.
And I know who said it too, because when I see these, I used to see them a lot still around there, and I used to just give them the evil eye. But it's situations, those two situations that stick with me, that are gonna probably stick with me for the rest of forever, because you don't forget stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm just like you, man. I was in college, and I was sitting down just doing some work, and then a couple of white guys come over talking to me. They were brothers, and then all of a sudden we had a cordial conversation. just like this. Everything's cool, like all three of us just talking. Then all of a sudden the conversation turned, and I could tell in myself, like, I don't know why we went from being happy to upset to mad to something about to pop off. And the white dude, one of the white dudes, the older of the two brothers, he said the N-word to me. And
Ooh.
I know to me at that time, I and everybody around me, I had every right in certain people's minds to go over there, beat them up, whatever happened. But I knew, and it could be the way that I was raised. I know violence isn't the answer. And if that happens, and then I pop off and I beat him up, then like you said, Chris, you got pulled over. You got pulled over and had to go through extra measures that Jeff probably wouldn't have to go through. And he even said, like, if he went to jail, like, he knows probably nothing's going to happen. And I knew that I could beat him up. Okay, be cool, like, whatever. He called me the N-word. I wouldn't get in much trouble. Or I could just not beat him up and then go about my day and then be like, wow, Jay, someone's saying that to you, and as derogatory as that is, you're able to live to see another day and be able to smile, and that person's going to look back on you and be like, even though I disrespected him, he was a bigger man because he didn't stoop to my level. And just like you, I told that story on a podcast last Monday. I think it was June 1st. And, bro, let me tell you, I hadn't told that story to anybody. That happened 10 years ago. And as I'm telling that story, I am reliving every single step of the story. Man. And then tears start falling down my face because I still felt the pain from 10 years ago of that word and how it hurt me. And, Jeff, I got a question for you. You say you live in rural Ohio?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I won't get mad. But is that word utilized, the N-word utilized in, like, casual conversations amongst white people out there? And if so, like, is it shunned upon? Do people, like, not care? Like, what goes on with that?
Yeah, I think you got a pretty good handle. It is so it's one of those things. They can – the people that use that word, and believe me, it is used here. But like, say, like my family, like we, like, obviously I have to say we're so against it as if anybody – you shouldn't be for it. But it's regardless, we're against it. You know, obviously, you know, we didn't just raise my kid like, don't say it. Like, don't say it because you're scared of retaliation, like you're talking about. We said, don't say it because of this. But we give them the reasons why this word is not acceptable. And it is used, but I can tell you, and it just happened to me, man. I gave a ride to lunch to a guy I had a ride to lunch last week. I had never met before, and we were on a job, and he didn't have a way to get to lunch. And we're working in a predominantly black neighborhood. You know, whatever. That's the only reason I say that's because it's key, you know, has something to do with the story. I wouldn't normally bring that up. So, you know, we're driving through whatever. It's not, you know, it's a cool neighborhood or whatever, but there's black people around. Big deal. Like, I didn't even like whatever. And he says the word about a person on the side of the street, and I'm like, you know, I'm you know what I mean, like, this is what we're here for. I mean, I was just like it's to even think about it, and that doesn't happen a lot. But then that's what I'm like, it makes me so mad because I'm like, why would you think that I'm okay with you saying that just because I look like? Why would you assume anybody? So then you're like, well, what are they saying when I'm not around? Because I brought it up just so you guys know. Like, I'm like, that's not cool, man. You know what I mean? Like, we're at work. That's not. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna fight the guy or whatever. But I was like, that's not cool. We're at work. Like, that's no. And he got to met, like, as soon as you bring it up, they immediately are like, okay, this guy's not on my side. We're not going to talk anymore. So what is he saying in his garage with the people that do think like him? Yeah, so I will tell you, yes, it is.
That's the scary part.
It is the scary part, Chris. And my wife brought this up. You know, we hear a lot about it. You know, this thing is, you know, it's a lot about black-white issues, and that's a real thing. So now, you know, it's that there's no other way to say it than to say white people. But then, like, people like well-rounded, like sane thinking people that obviously are on the right side of this, it is kind of weird. But then I'm trusting, like, no, when they say that, like, they're not, you know, it's hard for me to be like, they're not talking about me. They're talking, I know who they're talking about, but it's kind of weird. But yeah, to answer your question, that word is used way more than, well, it shouldn't be used at all, but it's used way more. And it's not, and it's the constant argument. We've heard this beaten to the ground. It's always like, exactly you know what you're gonna say? Well, they say it. And I'm like, you know what? You know, I was like, first of all, the they you're talking about, you know what? You go through what they did for a few hundred years, and then we'll talk. Yeah. So I'm like, a lot of times I'll be like, you know what? Call me in 300 years of oppression. Like, just call me. Yeah. And then we'll discuss whether you can use it as a mess. Not cool. So it's way less. And actually, what was it about? Man, it feels like 5 or 6 years ago, we had a huge event, and that was discussed, and it became a huge issue, which it needed to be put out in the light. And it's definitely – but, man, there's so many dog whistles and code words that it don't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you guys know. You guys hear what people say, and you can read –
Animals is the new one.
Yeah, thugs is a big one. I mean, it's you know, sometimes there's a – you know, that's used a lot, or there's still just a lot of thems and us's, but you know what they're saying.
Yeah.
You
You
so,
can read between the lines.
Yeah, but I will say that the majority of people that that I congregate with, like it's considered a disgusting word. Like it's getting better. If that makes any sense. But again, there's obviously still somewhere that it's just flying out of the mouth. Like for someone to say it so casually in front of a stranger, like that just I didn't have any words,
Yeah,
I'm like, well,
yeah.
like, and this was right before. This was probably like the Monday before, everything went down. So it was just like in 2 days, I'm inundated with this stuff, and man, it really had me it really had me depressed. I'm
that's
not gonna
crazy.
lie.
Yeah.
That's sad.
I got two things real quick, two different topics for both of you. Well, Chris and Jeff, then Jeff and Chris to end this thing together. We all three of us, we host sports podcasts.
Yep.
Primarily sports is all we're talking about. Even someone today said, there's no sports on. Like, so what are you guys talking about? I'm like, well, there is definitely stuff for us to talk about. We can all create topics to talk about if it need be. If sports were not going on for a year and we still want to sustain a sports podcast, we could do something to sustain a sports podcast. So Chris, I'm going to start with you. Then Jeff, like as soon as he's done, hop in on it. A movie, Remember the Titans. How could a coach nowadays, Chris, implement this movie? And I don't care if it's tennis, golf, soccer, football, basketball, baseball. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care if you're in America or if you're in Australia. I don't care. How could a coach implement this movie in their training camp or preseason workouts to implement desegregation or a unity of a team?
Oh man, I mean, we've been hearing a lot about this movie the last few days, and I happened to watch a little bit of it yesterday, and it kind of reminds me of where I went to high school. It's very there's a lot of white and black, and it's 50-50 down the line, and people don't think that's easy. They could be, oh man, everyone gets together, it could be easy, but I saw a lot of racial tension, and this is 2003, 2004, and a lot of racial tension, especially when you got a lot of these black guys. There was a lot of skills, a lot of guys who could play, and then you got the white kids who feel like, oh, he's gonna take my spot. Why is he taking my spot? And that comes down to coaching too, man. I mean, the coaches I had they were like, whoever's the best player is I don't care who you are, the best player is gonna get that spot. So don't get mad if he takes your spot. And we have a lot of those discussions because, like I said, there was a lot of tension. But somehow coach got everyone together and got everyone fighting. We're in this together. We're in this together.
Yeah.
We got one thing we want. We want to win a championship, right, guys? That's the goal, win a championship. I don't care what you look like. Everyone needs to be together. We have to have unity. And, that's what you got to do. You got to try to – it comes down to coaching leadership. Because if you don't got the proper leadership and stuff –
I like that.
If you don't got the proper leadership, things could get crazy. We see a lot of these situations, and especially in like high school, where you see a lot of these instances where you see a lot of tension. And in Staten, where I live, Staten Island, a lot of the Catholic schools are predominantly white. So the stories I read about, you see a black kid here and there go to the school, and then like they're gone because they can't deal with it. So it's up to the leadership, whoever's the coach, athletic director, to make sure that everyone, don't look at anyone different because of the skin color, because that's crazy. It's still crazy to me that people can look, but we live in this world that people judge people off the color of their skin. And I remember an instance, one of my teammates he was walking down the hall. Someone called him the N-word. Now this dude he's cool. He's actually from Italy. He's just super dope. He's an Italian. He lived in Italy for a while. This dude never bothered anyone, but he was built like a tank. And the fact that anyone would try to mess with him because he's cool and he's friendly. When I mean friendly, every teacher knew his name, straight A student. But someone, for some reason, some white kid told him the N-word, and he messed with him the wrong day because homie just laced him up, beat the crap out of him. Yeah. He got suspended though, but everyone was on his side because they knew he was good. He was a good dude. They didn't look at him because it's like, no, he's good. He's a good kid. That other kid's a piece of shit. And that was big when happened that. But like going back to the man, it's leadership, man. If you don't got good leadership, things are gonna go crazy.
Yeah, finding that out.
Yeah,
I like that.
and look, we're going through it right now as a country. Look who's on top, and it's, you could say what you want about Obama. I know people, it's crazy that you could even, Democrat, Republican, all that crap. I think that's just crazy that you can only vote for one side. But you can agree with his politics or whatever. But one thing we know is that he never made us look bad. He never made this country look bad. And his biggest issue was the tan suit. That was his biggest controversy. Was wearing a tan suit. Just think about that. You could agree, whatever his politics were, whatever you feel about how he handled certain situations, it's one thing. But he never embarrassed us, and we still went through the same stuff in this country, with Obama. But like I said, he handled it with class. He always made sure to say the right things. And you look at the leadership now. All leadership does now is just make more chaos. With the whole Drew Brees stuff recently, it's. And Drew, we started to be, okay, Drew, he apologized, whether it's sincere or not, that's for you to judge. But once the president said, oh, what Drew said, it just escalates. And that's what he does, escalate. When you escalate stuff, you cause tension. And what has he done the most since he's been taken over? It's causing so much tension between whites and blacks, the for Kaepernick stuff we saw, like we talked before, Kaepernick, it wasn't about attacking the military. And then for some reason, Trump turned it into that. And the media turned it into that. And then it became, oh, he's against the military. My father was in the military, blah, blah, blah. And that was the issue. I think that was the main issue people had with Drew Brees. Was my grandparents. And I was like, but Drew, your grandparents came back to a country and had no issues. But there's other people, people of color's grandparents who came back to this country and were treated like crap and couldn't go to certain restaurants and were beaten and were killed and were still called the N-word, and they just fought for the same country that your grandparents fought for. So that's where he lost everyone. Yeah, and that's the issue, is that we're not to, this leadership is not is he's putting us against each other, putting everyone against each other instead of bring us together. It's kind of and that's what it and that's, remember, the Titans is like that. He brings everyone together. Yeah. White, black, it don't matter. We're in this together. Bringing everyone together, and that's tremendous leadership. That's how you know you're a true leader, when you bring everyone together, whether they're Latino, black, white, Asian. You bring everyone together, and everyone understands everyone. You don't have to like this person likes Spanish music, rap. It doesn't matter. You bring it together. Everyone understands each other, and you band together, and that's the issue we're having in this country. And people are not understanding what Black Lives Matter movement is about. Right. People assume Black Lives Matter and say, rioters, looters. Oh, the disgusting animals. Look what they're doing. Bro, you got to see them. It's crazy the amount of stuff I saw about that, and then people calling, monkeys and apes, and this is horrible. I mean, I think I called out at least 10 people on Facebook. Shit, man. I think you've seen the amount of people I've called out and just saw, another racist, another racist, another racist. And they're just looking at that. And that's what all they see. All they see is rioting and looters, rioting and looters, rioting and looters. They're not seeing the people who are actually protesting peacefully and just want their voice to be heard.
And they don't want it. They don't really want to see it.
And they're only going to look at it that way. And they're only going to look at it one way. And it's not. They're not going to be. Oh, okay. No. It's one way. It's one way. And it's crazy how Trump has had everyone just think one way. It's one way, and that's it. And it's vote. Go vote. Yeah. I see too many people say my vote doesn't vote. Please vote. If you want, even if you don't agree, if you don't think Biden's the right guy, and because he's he could be a little loopy and stuff, Biden has his own issues. But if you just want change, even as loopy and crazy Biden could be with some of the stuff, he's a better option. And there won't be dissension. He won't break together this country. And that you just got to go vote. You want change? Go vote. Go vote for your local.
Yeah, your local. Yeah,
local. Exactly. Your governor. Your senators. The local politicians. Vote. That's important. I realize the older I get that. Oh my God, I used to look at the ballot and be like, I don't know any of that, whatever. And then now you're like, oh, now I really got to focus on my local.
You do.
Those are really the people.
Big time.
Those are the people that are really going to help make the change more than the president.
Yeah. Local government's very important.
But the president has definitely not helped since taking over. He's made it a lot worse. And it's, like I said, it's all about leadership. You can have a team full of black people, half and half, and bring it together. Like there's another film, Glory. Is it Glory Road?
Glory Road,
Yeah.
in Texas, El Paso. Yeah. El Paso.
That's another great movie that shows a lot about racial tension and all that,
Yeah.
And that's another great film about that. But it's, man, leadership, man. You got good leadership. You can handle whatever type of locker room in football and baseball, whatever sport. It's, man, like it's leadership, bro. Because
I like
you don't have leadership, as we're seeing in this country right now, everything can go crazy and everyone just is free for all, and you got everyone fighting against each other when everyone should just realize, okay, this is an issue. The fact that people are not seeing that this is a real issue is absurd. But if our leaders would be like, this is an issue, we need to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. But we don't have that. It's just, oh no, don't disrespect the flag. It always comes back to the flag, crazy.
Yeah.
But leadership, man. We need better leadership, and that's how you get everyone together. It's better leadership.
Jeff, remember the Titans, man. Sports is big in sports. I mean, it could break that movie alone. Watching that over and over, a coach putting that in their preseason workouts, that could help break the mold and end racism at our age and younger. And then that could affect the grandparents that have had that same thought process their entire life, man. Just remember the Titans. How does that get put into a team?
Well, first of all, that's absolutely. I raised my son on that movie, and I said that movie. Anything you need to know about life is in that movie.
Movie's a classic, bro. It's a classic.
Whether even if you just love football, like I watched some documentaries about Coach Boone. Like, oh my, what a
it's a true story too. People don't know. It's a true story.
He passed away maybe a couple years ago. It's been pretty recent. What a great life. What a great man. I looked into some of that. Even the football part's great. The integration part is a huge. I think that's just because we're getting farther away from it. I think the integration of America. I don't think people realize that it wasn't that long ago. Like if you're 20, it seems like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago that we integrated schools and things like that. But as far as the movie goes, I think as far as the lesson in the movie that I took the most out of was he finally had it with the separation of the team, and he forced them to talk to their teammates, of a different race. He said, and they had to learn like 2 or 3 things about their teammates, and then they had to talk about it. And so but my whole point about that is, in all honesty, like if you just have a conversation with another person that's completely different from you, most of the time in like 5 minutes, you realize that you're 99% the same. Like you'll talk about a lot of things. You'll start agreeing, and you'll walk away from that like, oh yeah, we're the exact same. I've met people on vacation. I remember I spent one night hanging out with a black gentleman, ex retired police officer from New York City. And once again, I tell everybody, I bring up the race because the story we're telling. I would never tell the story and say that he was, black retired police officer. But the point was, man, we BS'd all night. We were the exact same. You know what I mean? Like we had the same thoughts. We, about our families and about this and that. Just because we took like we didn't have any trepidation about talking to each other. So we just sat and BS'd over some hurricanes on the side of a pool in Mexico. Yeah. And we walked away like good friends. Our families, we spent a couple, kind of hung out for a couple of days, like vacation friends and all. And it was because neither of us, had any prejudices walking into the conversation. Like that wasn't a part of it. And I think if people just, I know you can't force it, but just talk to each other. Talk to somebody from a different culture. Talk to somebody and you'll find out that, we really are closer to the same than people. I mean, look at us guys. I mean, we're in 3 different places, 3 different backgrounds. And it doesn't even occur to me, except for we have to, that's the discussion we're having. But if we were on here talking about the start of the NBA season, which is fantastic, a race wouldn't even come up.
You wouldn't even think about it.
No.
You're not thinking about race. You're thinking about, all right, basketball, is LeBron James going to win a championship? That's what you would think about it. What are you talking about? You're white, I'm Spanish, he's black. Not even a thought process.
Never even occurred to me. It's like, just talk to people from different cultures and different backgrounds, and have a conversation. You know what I mean. It's and then I like what you said though, Jay. Like, if younger people do that and then their grandparents see it, maybe the older generations can change. I've been trying to think about how you change people that are set in their ways, and I really like that, man.
That's where it starts. It's the older generation that's telling their grandkids and their kids.
I promised myself I wouldn't go down that. It's taught, man. Believe me. Like
You're taught to racism. If you see your parents or your grandparents acting away towards a certain race,
and if you keep them
most likely, you're going to be like that.
And if you
Yeah.
keep them away from information like, like we talked about, like Coach
Exactly, yeah.
Boone, if you don't expose them to that information, they never know it. And, then by the time they're 40 years old, now they're set. And now
Yeah.
you got, you're fighting to change them, as to where when they're 7 years old, if you would just let them have a conversation with somebody from the inner city or from a different country or something, they might find out like, oh, okay, yeah, no big deal. And then,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
just talk to each other.
Because you see most kids that age don't care what color you look like.
No,
It's like,
bro.
Oh, you have a Power Ranger? That's what you have a wrestler. We play basketball. Oh, that's. But when they see their parents acting a certain way, that's
right.
when they start. And the older you get, you're like, oh
Yeah.
man, okay, I'm not gonna like. But
It's tough,
like you
man.
see with kids, they don't care what color. They just want to
No.
play.
No,
I want to play tag. All right, let's play tag.
Yep.
Right.
It's crazy how we let that get to that point where the older the kids get, then they see how their parents or their grandparents are, and then that's how they get their ways. And like, oh, I'm only Trump 2020. I don't care about there's no police, there's no racism in this world. And
Right.
it's like I saw it so much in my time. The kids that I saw growing up that didn't care about race, and then they grow up to my age, and now they only care about as well. There's no racism. Well, what are you talking about? That guy had the priors. I was like, whoa, bro, you would hang, you were cool when we were younger. You didn't care, and then now you're a super
Yes.
Republican, Trump
Yes.
2020, and it's like, where did that change? Like, how? Why?
That's the question. Where does it
change from those years?
Yeah.
And it comes from your parents to grandparents.
a lot of it's fear, man. There's a lot of like when it comes just to like I know there's racism in every culture, but just speaking from like the white, quote unquote, the white guy side of it, a lot of it is so much fear that they have, like just growing up and stuff of like whether it's jealousy, on a football field or a basketball court.
That's too big too. Jealousy.
For some reason, it's like a lot of it's just fear. Like, but here's the thing: we can make things better. I don't have to give anything up, and it can still be better for a part of the world. Like nobody's gonna like come and like, oh no, you got to take a 10% salary cut so we can treat each other equal. That's not gonna happen. Like you still get to live your life, and other people get to have more options. I don't understand what they think they're getting taken from them. That's the part that that's coming from somebody that, like I say, I sit here in Lily White, Ohio, like I could just mind my own business and hopefully all this would go away, but they're not going to take anything from me to give people out there more rights that they deserve from the get-go.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I don't mean to get so.
No, you're good, Jeff. We're going to stick with you, though.
You're cool.
I got 2 minutes for both of y'all on this one. The title of this series, like I told you guys earlier, is Be the Change. And if someone came to you and says, Jeff, I want to be a change, or I want to be a person that can do something to change in my community, what would you say to that person?
Okay, I've been thinking about this. So the one thing I think it actually be done as far as like education, I think we need to stop. First of all, I think we need to stop separating, jobs and cultural discussions and stuff, because we've done that for too long, and we've ignored these things for too long. Like, oh, you don't talk about this in mixed company, or you don't talk about this. And like schools, schools as far as education, like they could actually get way more into the civil rights stuff. Like I know it's uncomfortable to tell these stories, but that is a part of America that happened. We need to quit skirting over the horrendous thing. Like basically, here's what kids know when they come out of school: the Civil War was over, slavery was abolished, everything's fine. Like they skip, like they won't like talk about the oppression. Give them the information. If they choose to take that information and still think one way, there's nothing you can do. But give young people the information and let them start making up mind, because you might have a lot of these young kids that will go, whoa, I had no idea. Like that's horrible. I'm not going to be like that. So you might have changed that person. So then you've changed the whole family's generation, so you can actually, I think, just educate, you got to be real. You got to let them see what's actually happened. It's part of our history. I know everybody wants it to go away. It never will. Like it's there. Like,
yeah. Chris, wrap this thing up for us, bro. If someone came to you and said, Chris, I want to be the change in my community or in my family or in my school, and they had no idea how to be the person that could provide change to end racism, what would you say to that person?
Man, like you said, educate. You got to educate yourself. You got to be able to understand why these things happen. Not enough people know why, everything went on, slavery happened and all this stuff. So we have to educate. You got to just go out and educate yourself. Go watch 13th on Netflix. That's powerful. That documentary is powerful. If you just watch that, you'll understand so much about everything that's going on. And You know, like I said, like Jeff said, it starts in school too, man. Like they
Yeah.
don't, like you said, they teach you, you know, the stuff I remember the stuff we learned in high school. I'm like, none of that stuff applies to what I need to know now. Like
Mm-mm.
I don't know. I didn't learn that much if you think about it, you know, and I feel like, you know, it starts in schools. You got to,
Yeah.
whether it's uncomfortable or not, you know, I don't care if it's an all white class. We need to know why slavery was horrible.
Yeah.
I don't care if you have an all white school. It's 400 white kids. We're going to learn about slavery and why this was disgusting. Because I don't care if it's not, you know, your ancestors. This is disgusting that this happened in this country that we all say is the
Right.
greatest country in the world. You know, everyone says, "Oh, it's the greatest country in the world." Blah blah blah. But guess what? This country has a lot of scars, a lot of deep scars. That, you know, I just watched 13th yesterday. I'm like, I can't believe, and it wasn't that long ago.
No.
No.
And I'm seeing people, you know, crowds of people just pushing black people for no reason, simply because of skin color, or cops spraying hoses at black people, and colored only. And, you know, people, I'm just, I lost the words because I can't believe this happened in our country. And people are just so, they're just so tone deaf to why people are mad.
Right.
Because it's not
Right.
like racism just started. It's been
Right.
going on forever, but just now we got cameras and now everything
Facts.
can get videoed.
Facts.
So educate yourself. Please
Yeah.
educate yourself. Just go out and watch there's so many documentaries on you can go on YouTube and you can find a whole bunch of stuff. Just educate yourself. But we got to do this in school. So this got to get implemented, because we talk about crap in school about stuff that happened in the 1400s. No, let's talk about stuff in the recent time. Talk about why slavery was absolutely garbage, and all these other issues that are just big issues in this country. You know, how way they treat, you know, Latinos, you know, Mexican American, you know, Mexicans, you know, how they're being treated, put in cages and stuff, immigration, you know, all these laws that they're just against, you know, people of color. And just, I don't care if it's uncomfortable, drive it into their heads so that they can understand why people are so mad now. So, you know, that's all I got to say.
And like I said earlier, these two gentlemen with me today, Chris Lebron, Jeff Hunt, host sports podcast. They're on social media. Going to go with Chris first and then Jeff. Just quickly, Chris, let the people know where they can connect with you via social media, and also where they can listen to your work.
Yes, Off the Ball podcast. If you listen to it all on all podcast platforms. I'm also on YouTube. I'm working on spicing up my YouTube channel a little bit. You know, it's going to do some more videos and stuff. So you can find me on YouTube, SoundCloud, all the podcast platforms. On Instagram, Off the Ball Pod. Twitter, Off the Ball Pod. You can Facebook, the Off the Ball Podcast. You could find my Facebook page on there, and then also the Off the Ball Podcast, my new redesigned website I just had, and also got merch coming down the line. Excited about that. I'll have that in the next, hopefully the next week or two. I'll make sure to get those hats to you guys. I know, you know, you hit me up about those, so I'll make sure I get that. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, find me on there. Everything's, you know, I'm excited about the next few weeks. I got some good shows coming up. So yeah, find me there.
Jeff?
Yeah, it's I do Jeff Needs Help. It's a kind of an anything and everything podcast. It's kind of a always evolving, you know, being. It started off, you know, I interview other podcasters like yourself, and then I started kind of diving into the basketball side of it during the Bulls thing. I do a lot of video casting now. I've been on Chris's show. I'm always networking. I'm always talking to interesting people. You know, with the basketball season restarting, I'm going to dive into some of that and do some video stuff. Then I also do we do a football podcast, strictly one called Tuesday Aftermath in the fall. Basically, just find Jeff Needs Help on Facebook. You guys, you know, everybody knows the deal. It's all on there. We're on all the major podcast, you know, platforms, and you can usually find my face on Facebook 2 or 3 times a week. I bug everybody. So yeah, just come check it out. I'd like to hear some feedback from this show. I know it's going to be a strong one, but I'm proud of it. I was proud to be here, and I want to thank Jay for having me on.
This is much needed. This was much
Yes.
needed.
Yeah.
There's bigger things than sports, and I think a lot of people forget, like, oh, I just want to hear about sports, but this is a big issue, and everyone should care about these issues. So I'm happy we did this. This was good.
Chris, Jeff, it's been fun. Hey, Chris, for everyone listening, I am a hat guy. Jeff, I know Jeff wears hats quite a bit. This is one of the rare times you're going to find Jeff and I not wearing a hat.
I know, right?
I almost didn't wear a hat, and I wear hats all the time. I almost didn't wear a hat, but I was like, my hair's looking a little right now. So
see, I got a haircut yesterday, so I didn't want to put a hat on. That's the only reason why. But to all the listeners out there, when Chris's hats drop, you want to hop on this as quick as possible, as soon as possible. This stuff is going to be dope. Chris is doing big things. So Jeff doing big things. Guys, I'm excited for this. First in a series that we're going to be doing called Be the Change. Happy that I can have Jeff and Chris on with me. Guys, this was fun. Thank you so much, because we could all stick to sports or stick to whatever we do outside of topics like this, but race is too big and it has to end. So I appreciate you guys coming on and not stick to sports and help kind of just be the change in our communities. Chris, Jeff, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
Thanks, guys.